That moment when you walk into a room and instantly sense, yeah, these are not my people, or the guilt. Why am I even here? There were laughing at things you don't find funny, chasing things you don't really care about, agreeing with opinions that quietly make your skin crawl. You feel like you've been dropped into a wrong world. Most people take that feeling as proof that something's wrong with them. Machiavelli would say the opposite. If you never quite fit in, if you always feel slightly out of sync with the crowd, that's not a glitch in your character. That might be the first sign you're built to rule your own world instead of begging for a seat in someone else's. And I don't mean rule like some cartoon villain stroking a cat on a throne. I mean rule as in you decide the direction of your life instead of being dragged by expectations, trends, and other people's fragile opinions. But here's the catch no one likes to admit. Being born to rule almost always starts with being the odd one out. So if you feel that, stay with me for a bit. Let's flip this feeling on its head with Machiavelli as your very blunt, slightly ruthless life coach. Because once you see you're not fitting in the way he would, you might stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and start asking, "Why am I still shrinking to fit places I don't even respect?" Here's the first uncomfortable idea. The crowd isn't neutral. When you feel like you don't belong, you probably assume the crowd is the default setting of life, and you're the error message. But Machiavelli would remind you that crowds are built, shaped, and manipulated by someone. Culture, norms, how things are done. These don't appear out of thin air. They're created by people who want something. So when you don't fit into a system, it might be because your instincts are refusing to surrender to someone else's design. Think about school or work or your friend group. There's always an invisible rulebook, right? This is how you talk. This is what you post. This is how ambitious you're allowed to be before people start calling you arrogant. This is how honest you're allowed to be before people call you too much. Machiavelli's whole thing was studying power. Who has it? Who pretends to have it? And who quietly gave it up without realizing? If you constantly feel like you don't fit in, there's a decent chance you're one of the people refusing to give it up. Let's make this real. Maybe you're the person who asks questions in a room where everyone just nods along. Maybe you hate small talk and you'd rather go straight to the real things. Fear, ambition, betrayal, desire. What people are really thinking. Maybe everyone around you is just repeating motivational quotes, and you're the one asking, okay, but does this actually work in real life? On the surface, that makes you difficult, intense, or weird. Underneath, it makes you dangerous. Because here's what Machiavelli knew. Systems only work as long as most people don't think too deeply. Power relies on predictability. The moment someone starts thinking independently, asking hard questions, refusing to play along, the structure starts to shake. If you've ever felt like your brain is louder than the room, like you're seeing things other people either can't see or don't want to see, that's not you being broken. That's you being awake in a place that runs better when everyone is half asleep. And yes, it's lonely. Let's not sugarcoat it. There's nothing fun about sitting at a table and realizing you can't say what you really think because it will either be misunderstood, attacked, or turned into a joke. But here's the Machiavellian twist. Loneliness is often the tax you pay for clarity. The question is not, how do I stop feeling different? It's, what am I going to do with this difference? Because if you don't do anything with it, if you keep silencing yourself to fit in, you don't become normal. You just become resentful and tired. Machiavelli would look at that and say, "You're wasting an advantage." He studied princes and rulers who were constantly surrounded by people telling them what they wanted to hear. And the rulers who survived weren't the ones who fit in with everyone. They were the ones who thought differently, acted strategically, and were willing to be disliked when necessary. Let me repeat that last part because this is where most people fall off. willing to be disliked. If you feel like you don't fit in, but you're desperately trying to, you're stuck in the worst possible place. You're too different to be comfortable in the crowd, but too scared to step out and build your own path. That middle zone is hell. So let's use Machiavelli to get you out of it. First, understand this. Being born to rule doesn't mean you're superior to everyone else. It means you are responsible for your decisions in a way most people are not. You don't get to blame the group. You don't get to say, well, everyone else was doing it. You know too much. You see too much. Pretending you don't is self-betrayal. Machiavelli would tell you, if you see reality more clearly, you're obligated to act more strategically. So instead of asking, how do I become more like them? Try asking, how do I turn who I actually am into power? Let's break that down in a few brutally honest steps. Step 1. Stop trying to win the wrong game. If you're watching this, there's a good chance you've tried to compete in a game that never felt like it was designed for you. Maybe it's the social game, being likable, agreeable, always easy to be around. Maybe it's the career game, perfect employee, never causing trouble, quietly doing extra work that no one ever credits you for. Maybe it's the family game, being the good son or daughter who doesn't ask for too much, doesn't rock the boat, doesn't choose their own path if it makes anyone uncomfortable. Here's the Machiavellian truth. If the rules were written by someone else, they were not written for your benefit. So when you feel like you don't fit, ask, do I actually respect this game? Do I want the prize at the end of it? If the honest answer is no, why are you trying so hard to win? Not fitting in is a problem only if you're trying to stay in. Step 2. Study the crowd. Don't worship it. Machiavelli never romanticized people. He didn't hate them. He just didn't lie to himself about how they behave. He saw that most people are moved by fear, comfort, habit, and appearance. If you feel like an outsider, you actually have a better view of all of this than the people in the middle of it. You see who smiles at who. You see who everyone secretly respects, and who they mock when they're not in the room. You notice how quickly loyalty disappears when status or money gets involved. That perspective is incredibly valuable if you use it. Instead of thinking, why can't I just be like them? Try, what can I learn from them without losing myself? You can learn how people are influenced. You can learn what they're afraid of. You can learn what they find attractive in leaders, friends, partners. Then, and this is important, you don't copy them. You adapt. You use what works, but you don't abandon your core just to be accepted for 5 minutes. Step 3. Get comfortable with being underestimated. If you don't fit in, people may quietly dismiss you. They may think you're odd, awkward, too intense, too quiet, too blunt, too passionate about things they don't understand. Good. Machiavelli would say, let them underestimate you. It gives you freedom. When people don't see you as a threat, they show you who they really are. They relax their guard. They speak more freely around you. They reveal their strategies, their insecurities, their patterns. Meanwhile, you're watching, learning, building. You're working on your craft when they're wasting time. You're reading when they're scrolling. You're thinking long-term when they're chasing quick hits of validation. Does it sting sometimes being left out or overlooked? Of course. Let's not pretend it doesn't. But you can either use that sting as proof you're worthless or as fuel to build something so solid they don't get to define you anymore. Being born to rule means you are playing a longer game than the people who just want to be liked today. Step 4. Decide what you actually want power over. A lot of people hear Machiavelli and think manipulation, cruelty, doing whatever it takes. But underneath the reputation, his core obsession was, how do you maintain power in a chaotic, unstable world? For you, that might not mean ruling a country or a company. It might mean ruling your attention in a world where everyone wants to hijack it. It might mean ruling your emotions so you're not controlled by every insult, every comment, every bad day. It might mean ruling your time so you're not just reacting to other people's demands 24/7. If you don't fit in, maybe it's because your soul rejects being controlled. If that's true, then don't just rebel emotionally. That's easy. Anyone can roll their eyes and say, "I'm different. I don't care about this." What's hard is to calmly, consistently reclaim control over your actual life. That's where Machiavellian thinking can be brutal but useful. Because he would ask you, are your actions matching the seriousness of what you say you want? You say you're different. Okay. You say you're not like them. Okay. You say you're meant for more. Okay. Where does that show up in your daily strategy? Are you protecting your time? Are you choosing hard, long-term moves over comfortable distractions? Are you surrounding yourself with even one person who challenges you instead of 10 who keep you numb? If not, then your difference is still just a feeling. And feelings don't rule. Actions do. Step 5. Accept that you can't bring everyone with you. This is one of the hardest parts, especially if you care deeply about people, and a lot of outsiders do. You might think because you felt misunderstood your whole life, you'd never want anyone else to feel that way. So you try to drag everyone with you when you start to grow. But Machiavelli would tell you, a ruler cannot depend on universal approval. If you wait for everyone to understand and applaud your path before you walk it, you will die in place. Some people like the version of you that's confused, lost, and easily influenced. Some people benefit from you staying small, not always out of evil, sometimes just out of comfort. Your growth threatens the story they tell about their own life. So when you start acting on your difference, when you stop apologizing for your standards, your boundaries, your ambition, some people will drift away. Some will mock you. Some will call you selfish, arrogant, unrealistic. That hurts. It really does. But here's a thought. If you changing your life for the better makes someone hate you, were they ever really on your side? Being born to rule means you will lose some people, not because you're heartless, but because your path gets narrower and more intentional. Everyone is invited, but not everyone will walk it. And that's okay. Now, let's zoom in on you for a second. Because you're not just a concept, you're a specific person with very specific memories of being the odd one out. Maybe you remember being the kid who preferred books to parties. Maybe you remember being told you were too sensitive or too blunt or too serious. Maybe you've sat in meetings thinking, why is everyone pretending this terrible idea is good? Maybe you've had moments where you felt like you were watching life through glass, present but not fully included. If any of that resonates, I want you to hear this clearly. Nothing is wrong with you, but something will be wrong if you spend your entire life trying to fix what was never broken, instead of building what only you can build. Machiavelli wrote for rulers in dangerous times. He didn't soften the truth. He didn't coddle them. He wanted them to see reality. Because in his world, illusion got you killed. In your world, illusion might not literally kill you, but it can kill your potential. The illusion that fitting in will magically make you happy. The illusion that if you're just nice enough, quiet enough, agreeable enough, the world will reward you. The illusion that being different is a curse instead of raw material you can shape. So, let's switch from theory to something a little more personal and practical. Right now, think of one area in your life where you feel you don't belong. It could be your social circle, your job, your family's expectations, even the online spaces you spend time in. Got it? Now, ask yourself 3 questions. First, do I respect the values that dominate this space? Second, do I actually want what everyone here is chasing? Third, If I woke up tomorrow and magically fit in perfectly, would I be proud of that? If the answer to those is mostly no, then your discomfort is not a bug. It is a signal. It's your mind telling you, we are not meant to spend our life here. A Machiavellian mindset doesn't tell you to throw a tantrum, burn everything down, and storm out dramatically. That's just emotional rebellion. He would tell you to start planning your exit like a strategist, quietly building the skills you need, quietly forming alliances with people who think more like you, quietly saving money, building options, practicing your craft at midnight when no one is watching. You don't owe the world a performance of belonging where your soul is dying inside. You owe yourself a life where your difference isn't just tolerated, it's the foundation of your power. And I know some part of you might be thinking, okay, this sounds good in theory, but I'm tired. I'm tired of being misunderstood, tired of feeling alone, tired of always having to explain myself. That fatigue is real. But I want you to imagine something for a second. Imagine looking back 5 years from now and realizing that this exact feeling, this frustration and isolation and not fitting in, was the turning point. Imagine that instead of breaking you, it became the moment you stopped asking for a place at the wrong tables and started building your own. Imagine people coming into your life who finally get you, not because you twisted yourself for them, but because you showed up as you actually are. Imagine walking into a room not wondering, will they like me? But thinking, do I even want to be here? Does this place align with who I'm becoming? That is what ruling your own life feels like. Not control over everyone else. Control over yourself. Machiavelli would probably say it more harshly. He'd talk about necessity, survival, power. But underneath the severity is a simple idea. You are either shaping your environment or it is shaping you. There is no neutral. If you never fit in anywhere, maybe it's because you're meant to become the kind of person who shapes environments, even on a small scale. Your home, your work, your art, your relationships, your routines. All of that is a tiny kingdom you can rule with intention or abandon to chaos. So what do you do with all of this practically? You start small, but you start seriously. You stop apologizing every time your opinion differs from the group. You stop laughing at things you secretly find disgusting just to blend in. You stop lowering your standards because everyone tells you you're too intense. You stop shrinking your ambition to make other people feel comfortable. You don't need to announce, I'm different, I'm powerful, I'm born to rule. Honestly, that usually comes off insecure anyway. You quietly act like someone who knows their value, even if the world hasn't caught up yet. You observe more. You speak less, but when you do, you mean it. You make fewer, deeper commitments. You cultivate skills that are actually rare, not just trendy. And slowly, something shifts. You stop begging to sit at tables where you're barely tolerated, and you start building spaces where you, and people like you, actually belong. One day, the same people who once thought you were odd may label you mysterious, strong, focused, successful, whatever word they use when someone they underestimated quietly outgrows them. They'll say you changed, but you'll know the truth. You didn't change into someone else. You finally stopped betraying who you already were. You were the kid who didn't fit in. Now you're the adult who doesn't need to. That's the Machiavellian arc, not from weakness to cruelty, from confusion to clarity, from drifting with the crowd to steering your own ship, even when it sails away from familiar shores. So if you've been feeling like an outsider, like there's something fundamentally off about you because you can't fully melt into the crowd, consider this your reminder. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are simply early. Early to see what others refuse to see. Early to question what others accept. Early to demand a life that isn't just fine, but actually yours. Not fitting in is painful, yes, But it is also the crack where your real life starts to shine through. You can keep trying to plaster over that crack, pretend it's not there, numb yourself with distractions, fake smiles, shallow connections. Or you can treat it like Machiavelli would, as a sign that the old structure was never meant to hold you. Then you start building something stronger. And no, it won't happen overnight. There will be days where you want to go back, to dim yourself again just to feel safe and included. But every time you resist that urge, every time you choose your path over their approval, you're not just surviving your difference. You're turning it into rule, not over them, over you. And once you have that, once you stop collapsing yourself to fit where you don't belong, something strange happens. The world stops feeling like a hostile room you have to blend into and starts feeling like a map, full of places you haven't discovered yet, people you haven't met yet, opportunities that match who you really are. That's when "I don't fit in" stops being a wound and becomes a compass. Follow it. It's been trying to lead you to your throne this whole time.